Good afternoon, Mercer Island community. My name is Jessi Bon, and I am the City Manager for the City of Mercer Island. Today is Thursday, May 7th, and this is our live situation briefing. We've been doing these weekly now for, I think, about 8 weeks. Today I'm solo, so you're stuck with just me. The police chief isn't here, and we also don't have any guests. And we have fewer slides than we've had in the past, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Today I wanted to walk through the phased reopening plan for the state of Washington. It was presented by Governor Jay Inslee just a little over a week ago, and specifically talk about how it applies to city operations. Also have a quick update on cases here on Mercer Island, a few city services updates, and then we'll close out with a few reminders about upcoming council meetings and things like that. So first of all, just to get started, recently, the governor announced an extension of the Stay Home, Stay Healthy order through May 31st, although that was coupled with what's now being referenced as the Safe Start Plan, which allows for industries and business, government, everything we know it in our lives, to slowly reopen over the course of 4 phases. And I will mention, and I'll talk in detail about this in just a moment, the guidelines are still being developed for specific industries. So you've seen this graphic, again, 4 phases, and we've been told that each phase is a minimum of 3 weeks. So we're in phase 1 now. We actually started in phase 1 on May 5th, just a couple days ago. And under the guidelines of phase 1, some outdoor recreation is allowed. Governor Inslee allowed hunting, fishing, golfing, boating, and hiking to resume. And some of the state parks, not all of them, the hiking trails, not all of them have reopened. I will note, for those of you that are planning to go golfing, if you get a minute, take a look at the restrictions. The golf courses are pretty heavily limited right now. Things like no seating on the courses, the benches have been removed, no garbage cans, and they'll even be coaching you when you go to the courses about not handling physical objects on the course, like the flags or the pins and the cups in the hole. So we're making progress, although still a lot of restrictions in place. Existing construction that meets some defined criteria is also allowed to resume. Elective surgeries, drive-in spiritual services, and car sales. So I mentioned a moment ago, the state, as industries resume operating, what you may not know is they're developing specific protocols for those industries. So I was just talking about golf courses a moment ago, and there's a multi-page document that very specifically describes how golf courses can operate under phase 1. So other industries are under those same restrictions, and the guidelines aren't available yet for everyone. I heard, although I haven't confirmed this, that, for example, the car wash guidelines hadn't been completed yet. That may have changed by today. So the following, it's actually on the slide. Whoops, the following will be allowed once the protocols roll out. Things like landscaping, curbside retail pickup, which we're hoping to get going here on Mercer Island, car washes, as I just mentioned, pet walkers. And just so you know, as we're receiving information on how these services can be operating and the regulations, we will continue to post that information on our Let's Talk site. So what does phase 1 mean for city operations? First of all, in our community planning and development department, I'll mention that everything is always subject to change. But as of May 11th, which is this coming Monday, we will be resuming issuance of public notices for developments for the type construction that's allowed under phase 1. So our notices comply with the rules we have in place now. We will be limiting the number of notices that go out weekly. I believe for this Monday it will just be 11, and it will never exceed that number going forward. And a reminder, there are no public hearings being held during phase 1. So we have public hearings for a couple of projects, and I'll cover that in just a moment. So some notices for permitted work, but no public hearings right now during phase 1. As for the parks, I know everyone has seen the forecast and you're excited to get outside, and it's Wonderful that the governor has allowed some of the facilities to reopen. So here's what you can expect and what we will ask of you. As you visit parks this weekend, focus on moving through the parks and not gathering. Seattle just had a press conference before I came on live today, and they were really emphasizing their Keep It Moving campaign. Recreating only with those that you live with, that's still a restriction. Here on Mercer Island, playgrounds, sport courts, and athletic fields will remain closed until phase 2. And I've fielded a handful of inquiries the last 2 days saying, please reopen our playgrounds, please reopen our tennis courts, and I feel you. Here's what we're working on. We learned from experience over the last 4 to 6 weeks that when Mercer Island is open and other city facilities aren't, we have we create a draw and a real problem. So we have been working very closely over the last many weeks with all of our city partners here in King County, and even some in Pierce and Snohomish counties have joined us as well. And so we're planning to essentially reopen together. That way, nobody's opening ahead of the other one. Right now, we're planning for phase 2, which is consistent with Bellevue and Seattle. I believe Renton is doing the same thing. And that's specific. I want to be clear, the parks are open, but the playgrounds, the sport courts, the picnic areas, and the athletic fields are planned phase 2 reopening. And again, I want to just emphasize, we don't want to get out ahead of others, particularly while Seattle and Bellevue are still closed. If we reopen some of our amenities ahead of them, we'll just become a really considerable regional draw. So thank you for your patience. It looks like we just have a few more weeks until we get to phase 2. We are soft opening the parking lots. If you've been out and about, and you may have noticed that some of the parking lots have reopened, and that's our intent over the next several weeks to continue soft opening. We're not going to open Luther Burbank, particularly not this weekend. We just anticipate it'll be too much of an attraction for the region if Luther Burbank is open. So if you live near Luther Burbank and you can walk there, we encourage you to do so. And it will probably be, that park will probably be more like a phase 2 reopening. We're currently working with our patrons. If you have a athletic field rental sometime in the near future, you'll be hearing from us, and we're working on rescheduling and planning because our fields are still closed. If you have a question about parks operations, field scheduling question, anything, please call the call center, the citywide call center, 206-275-7626. Okay, parks maintenance. Parks are looking a little shaggy, and just as of May 5th, we've been given the go-ahead to resume maintenance activities. But what I shared earlier is the governor's office has informed us that there will be guidelines coming out on how to perform landscape maintenance activities. We haven't seen those yet, so we're still operating under the pre-phase 1 guidelines, which is we're doing the basic maintenance. The parks are all getting a haircut today and tomorrow, and then we're just awaiting any further guidelines or restrictions we might have on landscape maintenance going forward. So thank you for your patience. As you know, we've been in a kind of a standby modified maintenance operation for well over a month in the middle of the growing season, and there's a lot of work to catch up on. I need to remind you, Mercer Island community, due to our financial circumstances, we have made a deep cut in the Parks and Rec department, and that most certainly has affected our parks maintenance team. So I'm not sure we'll be able to catch up all the way, but we're gonna do our best with our very small but mighty crew. Some things that you can do to help us out. If you visit a park this weekend, we may not be able to keep up on all the garbage cans. Just pack it in, pack it out. That would be helpful to us. And a reminder, when you visit our parks, please maintain safe distancing. And we'll get back to business on park maintenance. So as for phase 2, this is again when we anticipate some of our other facilities within our parks reopening. So at the start of phase 2, which is currently predicted to happen around May 25th, small groups of up to 5 will be allowed to gather. So this is when barbershops, salons, pet care services are planned to reopen. In-home domestic care services are in part of phase 2. Retail with some restrictions, real estate, office-based businesses, restaurants operating at less than 50% capacity, and then the rest of manufacturing. You might recall that manufacturing was considered an essential service, so anyone in the manufacturing industry is still operating. So I spoke about this a moment ago, but just a reminder, we're predicting planning for phase 2 unless we hear something else from the governor's office, that playgrounds, athletic fields, and our sport courts will open in phase 2. We are coordinating with surrounding cities for a joint opening. I have heard some cities are maybe gonna wait till phase 3. We have a little time to continue coordinating with them. You'll still be restricted to gatherings of less than 5, so athletic leagues are not resuming in this phase. And you're gonna hear me probably say this 15 times today. Remember, safe physical distancing of 6 feet must continue. So as we move on to phase 3, for those of you that are really looking forward to getting back to athletic league play, this falls into phase 3. This is when recreational facilities are allowed to reopen at less than 50% capacity. Indoor gyms. So I've had a lot of questions today about private clubs, and it's not my job to interpret the governor's orders, but my best guess is that private clubs and the gyms, they all fall within phase 3. Bars operating at less than 25% capacity are in phase 3. Movie theaters also at half capacity. Government offices are in phase 3, and what I'll tell you is we are still working through operating scenarios for our city buildings. Telework is certainly still encouraged throughout this phased reopening. We will likely have many, if not most of our staff working remote for a prolonged period of time. So we're not quite at phase 3. I'm not sure what that will look like yet for City Hall, but we'll certainly update you as soon as we know. Libraries, museums, and other businesses other than nightclubs and events with less than 50 people. Actually, that should say less than 50 people are all in phase 3. So again, at phase 3, if you are an athletic league, this is when we anticipate league play will resume, and gatherings are still restricted to groups of less than 50. So looking ahead to phase 4, this is essentially all the remaining activities, businesses, services are allowed to resume. And what we can expect and what we've been told for some time into the future, we will be asked to continue safe care, physical distancing, sanitizing, disinfecting protocols. That's probably going to be sticking with us for some time. So also in phase 4, nightclubs, concerts, and large sporting events. And I've already mentioned that under phase 4 is when all recreation activities will be allowed to resume. So I think considering the phased reopening, the only thing that hasn't fit in the last 3 phases is large special events. So that will be phase 4. A couple more updates on the Community Planning and Development Department in terms of operating across phases 3 and 4. Everything, as I already noted, was subject to further clarification from the governor's office, but we anticipate sometime at the end of June into July, resuming public meetings and public hearings. We will most certainly provide a 30-day public notice on those matters that will have public hearings. Our planning department staff are working remotely, but you can reach them by phone or by email. And we're not sure, I'm going to be honest with you. At this point, we're assuming as public hearings start up that they may be virtual. We're waiting for further guidance from the legislature about how to do this. I'm sitting in our council chambers today. You've heard me mention this before. There's not a lot of room in here to allow us to safely operate with guests. So we're still working on that. Anticipate right now for future public hearings sometime end of June, early July, in that range. That's our starting range. and likely virtual, but we certainly need some more time to work out the logistics and the details. This is a slide we've showed you the past couple of weeks. Our city council meetings have resumed, and they will continue to be virtual council meetings for the foreseeable future. I don't see an opportunity probably in 2020 where we will be back live together in this room. Board and commission meetings are canceled through the end of May. We are waiting on more information regarding the Open Public Meetings Act restrictions. They're still in place. It basically says you can only hold meetings for necessary and routine matters or anything related to COVID-19. So that's limiting our board and commission work right now. Those restrictions are in place through the end of May. We'll see what happens over the course of this month, and that will give us more information about what June, July, and into the rest of the year looks like for board and commissions. All of our city buildings remain closed, including our municipal court. City special events, volunteer programs also suspended. Spring recreation programs are suspended, and all of our summer special events are canceled. Just a comment on our recreation programs. If you were watching the council meeting on Tuesday night, I did indicate that at this point we've essentially stood down the recreation and community center teams. We're not sure when those teams and resources will resume. We really have to do some work on financial planning and road mapping as the restart, if you will. So announcements will be coming out this week and next about summer programs. My preview is most of them are likely to be canceled. And then we'll be working with the city council on when we should restart and what that looks like. So thank you for your patience. This has certainly been really hard on the Parks and Recreation team, and the services that we know as a community you've come to depend on and really enjoy. So we're working on the path back, and we just need a little more time to also make sure our financial house is in order before we do that. So just a reminder, I also shared this information on Tuesday night at the council meeting. There's some specific guidelines that the governor and his staff are using in terms of how we go from phase to phase. There's kind of four main pieces to this: healthcare system readiness, testing capacity and availability, monitoring our case counts, and I'm going to show you in just a minute, we're actually doing really well here on Mercer Island, and our ability to protect high-risk populations. I've already previewed this. We do anticipate at least 3 weeks in between phases, and I understand the governor's team is working on evaluating all of the data. If you go to the Washington State COVID-19 website, which I haven't posted here, they have a dashboard that I think they're still tinkering with, but it shows where we are and all of these metrics. Finally, I would be remiss if I didn't remind you that the general guidance for all individuals across all phases is to continue physical distancing, wearing a face mask in public, staying home if you're sick, and continuing to disinfect surfaces and objects that you use regularly: doorknobs, keys, cell phones, surfaces, counters, everything. We are hearing that there may be more information coming out either from King County Public Health or possibly the state about a requirement to wear masks, but I haven't seen anything yet, mostly just a rumor at this point. We will certainly let you know if that comes to fruition. As for businesses, actually their requirements look much the same. A reminder that as you think about where your business is in the phase of operations, and this certainly applies to the city and City Hall, you also have to have protocols in place to keep people 6 feet apart, and adopting other prevention measures like the sneeze guards, which we are actually exploring having installed in the city buildings before we reopen to the public. Businesses also have to provide hand sanitizer and other safety gear that workers might need, masks, gown, gloves. And again, if you're a business and you're in one of those phases, I anticipate the governor's office will continue to roll out very specific guidelines for your industry. If you need help, please reach out to us through our Let's Talk page, and we'd be happy to do the research. I know we've had to do a lot of work trying to understand the restrictions on landscaping, for example. So if we can assist you, please do let us know. A couple additional reminders for businesses as you think about your personnel. The governor is indicated that all of us will have to have guidelines for employees, reminding them to stay home when they're sick. So this might be a quick review of your personnel manuals, following the CDC guidelines for cleaning. This is also something we might be able to help with because the CDC guidelines can be a little tricky to locate sometimes. Preparing for intermittent closures when you do have the virus resurge in your workplace, or if I should say it happens. There's a couple resources available on our Let's Talk page. Both Challenge Seattle and the Washington Roundtable have developed a business checklist to help you prepare for reopening. So again, that's on our Let's Talk page. And if we can assist with locating any information, please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, so that is Governor Inslee's Safe Start plan. Again, it's 4 phases, and we will continue to communicate with all of you as we know more. And I will say, I've said this before, you probably know as much as we do right now, and we're working city operations into those 4 phases. So just a quick update, and this is a really positive news story for Mercer Island. We have 68 confirmed cases, and I believe that's only 2 more cases since it was last week. And we have been, I shouldn't say 68 new cases, we have 68 total cases. We have been really stable. So what that tells me is we are doing a really good as an island community. I know most of you are staying home. I would say keep doing it. What this tells me is we're working really hard to keep each other safe. So let's absolutely keep doing it, and it is making a difference. One of the things you may have heard about on the news recently is new symptoms to watch for. I think we'd been hearing about them anecdotally, but the CDC did release some information about new symptoms that you should be mindful of. And symptoms may not appear until 2 to 14 days after exposure. So I just wanted to remind you, you may have COVID-19 if you have a cough and shortness of breath or difficulty breathing. That's been pretty consistent throughout this pandemic. Or at least 2 of these symptoms, and a couple of these are new. So fever, chills, repeated shaking with chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, and a new loss of taste or smell. So if you're exhibiting these symptoms and you have concerns, again, we encourage you to reach out to your medical provider. Unless it's an emergency, it's always good to call ahead, and they can counsel you on the plan for your arrival and how to keep everybody safe. I have a few more city service updates for you, and then we'll be concluding the briefing today. Really good news in police and fire. Both departments have done an excellent job with safety and keeping officers and firefighters safe. So we are currently at full staffing, and we have no known exposures to COVID-19. Call volumes are steady. And just a quick update, I did cover this on Tuesday night as well. Detectives are continuing to work on the investigation related to the home invasion robbery. I know that's top of mind for everybody and certainly very concerning. Just because you're not hearing from us doesn't mean they're not working their case. It's actually one of their top priorities. So when we have information that we can share, we will certainly do so. So a program that we're really excited about, and it's a really good time to have this virtual block watch program since most of us are home more than we were just a couple of months ago. This is a new program that we've launched to focus on crime prevention strategies in your neighborhood, so neighborhood block watch program. We just did a test of the program launch, I think it was earlier this week, possibly Monday. And we had a police detective and a police officer join a Zoom call with a number of people in a neighborhood. Just to walk them through the program, this is things you should be watching for, things you should do, when you should call the police, really good information and a great refresher for all of us. So the program launches Monday, May 11th. if you would like to participate and sign up your neighborhood, please contact Jennifer Franklin, and her email address is there, or you can call her, and I'm going to go ahead and share her number, 206-275-7905. So I really encourage neighborhoods to get involved. Not only did we have the home invasion robbery, but you've probably also heard about the mailbox theft throughout the island. So with really alert neighbors, we can actually help prevent crime, and in the instance that it occurs, we can help the detectives when they're doing their investigation as well. Coming up on May 19th, we have another city council meeting. Just a reminder, we are under restrictions from the state. They were extended actually Monday, quite late into the evening. So the meeting restrictions, it's the Open Public Meetings Act, and it limits our business still to routine and necessary business items or anything related to COVID-19. So you'll see, for those of you that follow our council meetings, you'll see our planning schedule shift just slightly again. On May 19th, we'll be looking at a budget amending ordinance, a finance update, and a couple other things also related to finance. So the theme will continue. We do anticipate that, well, maybe that's being a little too optimistic. We're hopeful that by June, the state legislature will have reconvened, and they will provide guidance that allows us to lift the necessary and routine restrictions on the public meetings and just resume normal operations while still allowing us to keep everybody safe. So stay tuned. I know this is really actively being discussed at the state level, and as soon as we have new information, we will certainly be sharing it. We do get a lot of information from vendors and partners, not only here on Mercer Island, but around the community. We wanted to remind you that we post this information on our Let's Talk page. So we had a couple emails come in this week. I just wanted to highlight them. First of all, Cedar Grove is offering contactless delivery of bulk and bagged soil. Of course, they're a great partner in our composting community, and they're local, so reach out to them if you would like to explore contactless delivery. And then contactless, that's a really hard word to say, contactless organic produce is being delivered from Sounds Sustainable Farms to your door. And again, that information is posted on Let's Talk. If you have a business, local business you'd like us to highlight, please reach out to us. We'd be happy to post a link. We've certainly been highlighting Mercer Island businesses, and we'll continue to do so. Cedar Grove provides a service that's not available here, so we're happy to promote their services as well. During the pandemic, I think I can say for myself personally, there have been many challenging moments. It's really hard on all of us. None of us are immune from the impacts of a world that has completely changed. So I just wanted to remind you that please visit our Let's Talk website. Not only do we have our own Youth and Family Services Department, but we have posted links and resources for things like anxiety, suicide prevention, substance abuse. It's all linked there, and we encourage you to reach out if there's something that we can help you with. Just a reminder, the Mercer Island call center is available, and actually this slide has not been updated. It was operating 7 days a week. We went back to 5 days a week because the weekend traffic was just so very low. If you need anything from the city, anything at all, we have centralized our customer service function due to the pandemic. So the best way to reach us is at the number there, 206-275-7626, or you can email us at coronavirus@mercergov.org, and we'd be happy to get you connected to a staff person that can assist you. Speaking of, you've heard a lot about our Let's Talk page. It is the repository for all of our COVID-19 resources. We've been adding content daily, sometimes many documents, and we do understand it can be hard to locate it. This is just a reminder that there's a search function in the corner of the page. If you type in the subject you're looking for, it should help you track it down a little bit easier. And if you're still having trouble or we don't have a document posted, again, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help you during this time. And we are connected with many of the other government entities. We can help track down your document and information. So I think all of us need a little good news right now. And I'm just so impressed, Mercer Island community, with all that we've done to lean on each other and support each other over these last 2+ months. So in that vein, we want to know, has a neighbor helped you during the pandemic? Have you been, or someone else helped you, whether it's an employee at a grocery store, anyone? Have you been trying to think about how you might want to thank them? We want to hear from you. We have on our Let's Talk page, a Some Good News page. And we'd like to encourage you to write in and share your good news stories about all the things that are happening that are just really incredible and positive in the Mercer Island community. You can also just send us your notes and stories, thank yous for people. If you want to email me directly, citymanager@mercergov.org, and we'll post it to the site. And we're going to start featuring this. So as you post information, we're going to do our own positive news campaign here on Mercer Island to help us all celebrate the many fantastic things that all of you are doing to help each other out. So we do have a few changes coming eventually to the Thursday briefings. We will have another briefing next Thursday, and then from that point forward, we'll be going to just the weeks when there aren't council meetings. The council meetings on Tuesday night provide me an opportunity to do a shorter version of a live briefing as well. So stay tuned. We'll use our social media sites and our Let's Talk page and other communications platforms to let you know what the live briefing schedule is. And as always, if you have questions or things that any of us can address, you can reach out via the call center or certainly email me at citymanager@mercergov.org. And that is all I have for you today. I hope everyone takes a moment to just step outside and enjoy this beautiful sunshine. It looks like it's going to be with us for several days. Anyway, thank you and have a good afternoon.